All right, so here we are. This is the Artillery Genius. So I've been seeing a lot of videos of the Artillery Genius and the Ender 3 V2 on YouTube. And I'm kind of new to the whole 3D printing world. But both these printers seem to be a pretty good value. And I was having a hard time deciding which printer to get. Do I get the Ender 3 V2 or do I get the Artillery Genius? And I kind of wasn't really sure about it and what would be the best value and which one would be better for a new 3D printer for a beginner. Since I couldn't really find an answer, I decided to get both of them and see for myself. There's the Ender 3 V2. Turn that off. Here's the Artillery Genius. Amazing. It's awesome. And you know what I didn't do? I didn't connect our filament sensor. So looking at it, it has these upgraded springs. In comparison, here are the springs. It's kind of hard to see. Here are the springs on the Ender 3 V2. I actually have an upgrade kit for the Ender 3 V2 here with the Capricorn tubing, and it has those springs in there that are already installed on the Artillery Genius. So that's nice. Those are much sturdier springs, and they won't be bending and going off to the side like these ones do. Still very hard to see. I'm sorry about that. So we got the fan. I don't know if you can touch any of that. Tools. You can do bed leveling. So this is nice. This isn't on the Ender 3 V2. There's no bed leveling assistant. So with this, you can press these buttons and it'll go to certain points on the bed, and then you can use paper to adjust it manually. On the Ender 3 V2, all you do is, your only option is to disable the steppers. So you would disable the steppers so that you're not messing around and messing up the motors. So now you can move it around freely. So with that, you would just move it around to the point and then put some paper under there to level it yourself. And just move it around from point to point. Which, it's not a huge deal, but it's nice to have, I'll do auto home there. It's nice to have this little extra function to it. Oh, what's going on? Okay, so I found out what the problem was. I kind of assumed that something was going on with the X-axis motor here, but it was this connector right here. Back here. So I had to pop this cover off, and this cover just comes off. There's no screws or anything. You just kind of really have to pull it off there. But this connector was partially out, so it was getting some connectors in there, but it wasn't 100% in. So it was causing it to really jitter around. It wasn't getting the full good connection there. And all I did was plug that back in, and now it works fine. Had a big scare there. That was kind of weird. I don't really know how that came out. It must have just been from transit. But yeah, that was not a good sound. But things like that happen. You have to be ready to really check everything. I don't know. That's something that a lot of people might not really think to look at because it's kind of hidden in there. See if I can get this back on. All right, so there we go. That's back on there. But yeah, that's kind of hidden. You wouldn't really think to look in there. At least not like a beginner would. I don't know. Somebody that's just getting into this might not realize that that could be caused by the x-axis or something, which I'm not that well versed in this yet either. This is kind of like, this is my first 3D printer right here, and this is my second. So yeah, it was, if you have that problem, it's probably the connector for the x-axis here. So you just pop this off. See if I can do it with one hand. It just slides in there, and it's this connector right here. It might be loose, so just make sure that's well seated, and you should be good to go after that. So now, as a comparison, you can see what it sounds like when it's working properly. Very quiet, extremely quiet. I'm gonna go ahead and do the leveling and everything, and then I'll come back, we'll do a print, and we'll compare it with one from my Ender 3 V2. Alright, so I'm loading up the XYZ calibration cube, and we're just going to run that on the Ender 3 V2 real fast. I've got a little action camera here set up so that we can kind of see it over a period of time as it prints, and then after that we're going to move over to the artillery and see how that one does. Alright, so here's the outcome from the Ender 3 V2. This is just the standard settings in Cura, standard quality, and for PLA. It's pretty much the standard settings used for the Ender 3 Pro, but it works perfectly fine with the Ender 3 V2. So now I'll set up the Artillery Genius, and we'll get going with that one. Alright, I needed to intervene and show this real fast, but this is really quiet. In comparison to the Ender 3 V2, this is leaps and bounds better in sound, and the print looks pretty good so far too. I'm using the exact same settings that I used for the Ender 3 V2 because it should be very similar. The bed size is very similar. I think it's actually the exact same bed size. Also, it's using the same size filament, exact same filament. I just moved the rollover, so it should be a very even playing field. There's the screen. It's also nice that this has a light built into it. Ender 3 V2 does not have that. And this has a direct drive extruder versus the Bowden tube. The hot end is a bit lighter for printing, so people say that it's more accurate that way and it can move around better, but from what I'm seeing, this is looking pretty darn good. And this is direct drive, so I guess we'll take a look at it after it's been finished. I'm not sure if the action camera got everything. It seems like the battery might have died, so might not have gotten the very end, but here it is. I haven't even pulled it off yet. I'm seeing some small marks. Let's see. Let's see how easy it is to pull it off. Should be pretty easy. Hasn't cooled down much. It's still pretty on there. It literally just stopped though. Bed is still at 54 degrees Celsius. So maybe once that goes down a little bit, it'll be easier to get off. I'll wait a little bit and then come back. I ended up trying to pull it off. It was still pretty hard to get off there. And it actually, is that pretty much the same thing going on as the under 3. Alright, so we have the Artillery Genius on the left and the under 3 V2 on the right. I will say I think the under 3 V2 takes it on this one. I think it looks a bit nicer in general. It's very close though. It's very close. They both have that little mark there. I don't know exactly what that is, but that little mark there is on both of them. If we go to the Y, make your own judgment there. They're very similar, but I think the under 3 V2 had a little bit of a better print, and that could be due to some settings. Like I said, these are settings mainly for the under 3 V2. The bottom is definitely better on the Artillery Genius, so I had a way better adhesion. The build plates are different too, so this one has a bit of a different pattern on it. Looks much better. It's definitely flatter too. Let's turn this one on the side. It did much better on the Z, the under 3 did. But I'd say they're very similar with a little bit of tuning. This is like straight out of the box. Haven't even like gone through and touched much on the Genius. I think we could get the Genius printing just as good, probably better than the under 3. It's definitely much quieter, leaps and bounds quieter than the under 3. It's kind of insane how much quieter. I don't think it's due to the steppers at all. I think it's all fan noise on the under 3. These fans are very loud, not just for the hot end, but also the power supply. It's just once those start going, it's like a wind turbine in your room. So kind of obnoxious. Maybe you could switch that out with some Noctua fans or something, and that would quiet that down. So it's not like you're stuck with these fans. You can always upgrade them and make them a bit better. But out of the box, the Artillery Genius is much quieter. I really like the spool holder up top. It works really well. It has the filament runout sensor here, which is a really nice touch. So if you want to use multiple filaments, you can. You can just like cut it off where you want and then put in a new spool. Or if your spool happens to run out in the middle of a print, then you can quickly swap them. Then you have the direct drive extruder, like I said before, on this. So that's a plus or minus depending on who you are, I guess. I kind of think it's a plus. It's better for printing flexible materials versus the Bowden setup. But I did print, my brother-in-law wanted a wedding band that he could wear that's not metal, that would probably break or be easier to cut off in case it got stuck. He works on a ranch, so I did print this on the under 3 V2. The under 3 V2 can print some TPU. You have to go really slow, turn it down very slow. But I found a good tutorial online for someone that had settings for that, so I did that and it turned out pretty good. I'm really impressed with this. It does have a bigger footprint, so the printer is a little bit bigger, and unfortunately it won't fit under this rack here like the under 3 does, so it can't really sit as far back as that. Maybe I can put it over in the corner or something. There is a connection for a BL Touch, so you don't have to go and rewire the entire thing underneath to the motherboard. It's just right in there. You can just plug it in from there, which is very nice that it's already BL Touch ready to go out of the box. On the Ender 3 V2, you would have to go and print out a bracket. I mean, I think I still need to print out a bracket for that, but you can't just plug it in right here. I have to run the wire all the way around to the back and everything and underneath. It's not a horrible process, but it's a lot more involved than with the Artillery Genius. So that's nice. Yeah, I don't know what else to say really. I think honestly, at the end of the day, I think what it comes down to is the user base for the Ender 3 V2 is much larger, and there's a lot more videos and things that you can learn online about the Ender 3 V2. There's tons of upgrades that you can get on like Thingiverse and stuff that you can download. The Artillery Genius doesn't have nearly as much. There's not a whole lot of videos on it online. There's some unboxings and stuff, but other than that, there's not a whole lot. I feel like I've seen a lot more videos of people from other countries that speak different languages, but it's a little bit more minimal. You're gonna have to do things your own a bit more, but really out of the box, it's pretty polished and you don't really have to do a whole lot anyway. So I don't know if that really matters that much. I'd say for the money, right now you can get this on GearBest. Well, at the time of this video of me recording this is on GearBest for $269 shipped. That's it, $269. And the Ender 3 V2, I got this on eBay for $289 shipped. So that's with tax and everything. So it was $289 for that and $269 for this on GearBest. So this is actually cheaper, depending on where you get it. A lot of times I see these for more than $300. So they're around the same price point. I think bang for your buck, the Artillery Genius is a much better buy, but I still really like the Ender 3 V2. I like the UI. I like the turn knob. It does display a lot of information on there. You can tune things real easy. This might have a little bit more options somewhat, but I kind of like the information on here a bit more. Something I do like about this more than the Genius is that it displays the amount of time that is left on the print. It calculates how long the print is going to take for it to finish. So it'll give you a time frame. So it's like, oh, there's 27 minutes left on this print before it's finished. So you can kind of time your schedule based off of that. It might say 3 hours, might say 4 hours, whatnot. So you can kind of base it off of that. This, I couldn't see anything on there that told me a time. It just said a percentage of what is done. That also tells you the percentage what is done as well as how much time is left. And I was really hoping I would be able to just say one or the other. I think I would personally go for the Artillery Genius if I was to pick one. But it's hard to beat the community that has the Ender 3 V2 and being able to diagnose things by going online and looking up your problem. You're bound to find a fix no matter what it is. And finding parts is very easy, very cheap. Artillery Genius is just a little bit more difficult in that aspect. For the beginner, the very beginner, maybe the Ender 3 V2. I think it's kind of a toss-up though. It's a very difficult subject. It's very hard to decide. So maybe just buy both of them. I don't know. That's what I did. This one is a better bang for your buck. This one has the community to back it up. That's kind of the end note. Yeah, I guess you got to decide the rest on yourself, but hopefully this shed a little bit of light, helped a little bit. I don't know. It's not a professional video at all. This is kind of just, I thought I'd do it, maybe help somebody else out. I wish I had a better quality camera. I guess I'm realizing how bad my phone camera is for recording video, especially at 1080p, I guess, but this is what I got. So hopefully this helped you guys, and if it did, please give it a thumbs up. I don't know about subscribing, but I might have other videos later on. Maybe I'll do some more 3D printing videos. I don't know. As I'm getting more into it, it might be kind of fun. So let me know what you guys think down below. If you're kind of a Artillery Genius or a Ender 3 V2 fan, which one you're planning on going for, and what kind of filaments you kind of want to use, because this one will definitely do better with flexible filaments. This one can print flexible filaments. You just have to be a little bit more in tune with it. You're gonna have to go a little bit slower and just mess with your settings, try to get it to work. Maybe put the Capricorn tubing on there, and that might help you out a bit too. That's it. Hope you enjoyed, and have a good one.